Lights, camera, action. The Doctor and Belinda are going to the movie house. Today we're going to be talking about the second episode of the latest season of Doctor Who, Lux. Not Flux, Lux. Is this my most hated episode of Doctor Who ever? Don't make me laugh. Stay tuned to find out more. I just want to start off by saying it's so nice to have a beautifully paced episode of Doctor Who. I feel like it's been a while since something has flowed so well. I feel like everything that was set up was paid off. The story never felt rushed, and I felt that I got to really immerse myself in the setting and the characters and really just got to love it. I think this is a good episode to prove that the 45-minute format actually works brilliantly for Doctor Who if you tell a story that fits within the 45 minutes. Also, I'm just so happy to come on here and talk about an episode I'm really enthusiastic about, something that I really just genuinely loved. One of the things that really impressed me with this story were all of the guest cast, all of the side characters. I really enjoyed Mr. Pye, the projectionist. I think his storyline was really simple but effective. Usually with these type of characters, I don't really feel too much because you only see them for a small amount of time. But his storyline was so simple and it was like an archetype that we've seen before and you can resonate with it. You know, this is a man who lost his wife, who he loves deeply. And when Lux brings his wife back to life, you really feel something. And it's so beautifully done as well with the grayscale effects. And it really tore on my heartstrings. I actually felt something in my cold, dead heart. And when Mr. Pye is talking about his wife and he's saying, you know, if he's real as in Lux, then so is she. And that is such a powerful bit of dialogue. And it's just like, well, yeah. No wonder he feels so conflicted and why he doesn't want to escape the cinema. And you really feel like you know this guy with just a handful of dialogue. Let's start at the very top and talk about Belinda. I think something that this episode does well compared to last season's Devil's Cord, which, because they're both very similar episodes, is that in the Devil's Cord, we had a time jump for some reason where the Doctor and Ruby had been traveling for 6 months together. It was very odd. Whereas within this is Belinda's first proper adventure after meeting the Doctor, and there is a real character progression between the two of them. Their relationship is formed throughout the episode. You know, you've got Belinda who's really trying to be like, I want to go home, I want to go home. And by the end of the story, she's starting to get into the groove of it. She's great in a crisis scenario. And I really like their dynamic. And I think as an audience, because we're seeing it sort of in real time, you feel like their relationship is more genuine. There are a lot of similarities to the stories in the Devil's Cord, you know, even replicating the exact same shot of them when they change costumes. You know, it's the same setup, but I actually kind of enjoy that. It's almost like a TARDIS materialization shot. It's something they do when they change costumes and stuff like that. And I think it's fun. And as soon as we exit the TARDIS, when we land in the 1950s, instantly there's something wrong. I'm really happy that Doctor Who is happy to talk about difficult issues like segregation and racism because, you know, the Doctor is now a black man and his experiences to someone like David Tennant landing in this time period is going to be different. I think this episode handles talking about segregation really well. I feel like it's explaining how it works and the danger of it and the injustice of it, whilst not letting it stop the show from telling stories set in the past and during this time period and in this location. Because I think it could be really easy, like in Rogue, where we just pretend that racism doesn't exist. But I think that would be a misstep and a disservice. And I like the smart decision of the TARDIS landing at 4 a.m. so they could move around a bit more freely because it could be a massive roadblock in order to tell a story in 45 minutes. And it doesn't gloss over it. It doesn't make it this magical little thing that, the Doctor can land in any time and space and rule any room he walks into because that's not the reality of the world we live in. But even then, there is a sense of dialogue to that where the Doctor's talking about I topple worlds all the time and sometimes I wait for others to do it. You know, there's some battles that the Doctor can't beat on his own. You know, this is something it's a big political movement and the Doctor can't fix it in 45 minutes. But yeah, I think this theme was handled well. And I'm really loving Belinda and the Doctor's chemistry in this, when they're talking about Scooby-Doo and how the Doctor's Velma. And, even to the point where they're saying, there's an old caretaker in a haunted cinema. This is Scooby-Doo, let's go. And you can tell how much fun they're having together, and that's really great. And it feels more natural than the Doctor and Ruby's friendship. And I'm not entirely sure why, but it just does. But maybe that's because we're going through the motions with them, instead of that 6-month time jump. I feel like this episode is like, what if we did the Devil's Chord, but with Josh's interests? Like, Josh likes film, Josh likes Scooby-Doo. Let's put that together, and maybe that's why I like this episode more. But I think the main reason why I like this episode more than the Devil's Chord is because I think it's just paced better. And the Devil's Chord is just a bit messy in its conclusion. But we're not talking about the Devil's Chord, we're talking about Lux. So let's go back. And since we're talking about Lux, let's talk about Lux himself, Mr. Ring-a-Ding-Ding. I absolutely love this art style. I think this is a beautiful time period for animation. And making this demonic 2D cartoon come to life is always brilliant. And I just love that type of stuff, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I was watching the Unleashed episode, and one of the people who worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit worked on this, and I think that's great. I think it was brilliantly animated, and I also think it was brilliantly performed by Alan Cumming. This is a weird thing. All 3 gods being played by queer people. Isn't that weird? I don't know about Sutek, but he's just a damn dirty dog, so I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. So is Russell T Davies implying that all queer people are evil? Think about it. Not very woke, is it, Russell? I love when the Doctor first meets Lux and he is instantly curious and thinks he's really cool and he loves him straight away. And then he slowly reveals, he's like, oh, I know what this is. I like when the Doctor goes into something with love rather than fear. But once again, with these gods, it always feels like the rules are a bit muddied and unclear. On first viewing, I thought, well, who was the Harbinger? Like, who was that? Because Lux isn't that. And then I saw some people online talking about how the Harbinger is actually the title of the film. So the film itself is the Harbinger. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That works. And then I saw some people being like, oh, how did the Doctor know that? Because the sign fell outside. And it's like, well, the Doctor's just really, really smart. So he just remembered. I don't know. You can chalk it up to anything. You can make it work. I think there's answers within the episode, but if you're willing to look, but on first glance, they're not entirely obvious. Because when we're talking about the rules, why does Lux have to dance every time the music is played? And apparently these gods can't lie. And I don't really know exactly when that came in. But yeah, his powers seem sort of vague. I feel like I need like a Moses with the 10 Commandments saying these gods can't do this, that, and the other thing. I need guidance. I need rules. But I think one of the more enjoyable segments is when the Doctor and Belinda get trapped into the film, and you've got them animated, and I think that's a really sweet segment. It's one of those moments where you're like, oh, this is really good, and I want more of it. I want to stay here longer. I love that their dialogue is very Scooby-Doo at first until they become more fleshed out and they sound more like themselves. I really enjoy how that was done. And it reminds me of that Daffy Duck Looney Tunes where, the animator is trying to erase him and stuff like that. I like when television and film plays with its own medium and, breaks that fourth wall a bit. So this is something that really appeals to me. This is not like a groundbreaking new idea that's never been done before. A lot of shows and films have done this type of thing. But one thing I learned at uni was like, there's no such thing as a brand new idea. So it's about putting your own spin on an established idea and adding your own special sauce to it. And I think Russell did a great job here. I think that one of the more divisive scenes online has been when the Doctor and Belinda have exited the television and they see Doctor Who fans. I think that this scene could have been really, really horrible and cringe, but I was really taken aback about how moved I was by it. That it didn't feel like it was insulting Doctor Who fans. I felt like it was a really honest and accurate depiction of fan culture. And it wasn't in a way that was like Osgood, where it's sickly and cringe. That blend of, yeah, as Doctor Who fans, we're annoying, but there's a sense of community and you find friends this way. And I felt something, and it was actually a really moving scene. It made me think about my relationship with fandom and the friends I've made through this show over the year, this YouTube channel, this show is such a huge part of my life. And I think that the scene was really well done and it was written with love rather than animosity towards its fan base, where I feel like a lot of shows don't actually like their fans very much and the writers get upset with fans criticizing their work all the time and then they put that in their scripts. And I think that sucks. I think as an artist, you need to ignore the criticism and continue to make your show to the best of your abilities. Because of course there's going to be people who are going to say, oh, this, that, and the other thing, and you've got to ignore that, you know? I thought it was interesting in this scene as well, they reused old music from the 11th Doctor's era. And there was also a music cue from Amy's theme in the TARDIS scene at the beginning. And I think it's interesting that Murray's doing these cues. I think it makes sense within this fan scene because, you know, it's about fandom and people, and that music track itself is when it's talking about the Doctor being a fairy tale, when he's talking to Amy in the Big Bang. So, you know, it makes sense within the narrative of the show and why you would use this track here and why fans would react to it. Whereas I'm not entirely sure why Amy's theme was heard in the TARDIS at the beginning. Maybe it was to set this up, I don't know. To say, hey, listen to the music, I'm doing something for you, I don't know. Murray's on something, I don't know what he's doing. Because he played the 11th Doctor's theme in the Star Beast for Donna. So I don't know what that was about either. Murray's just like, you know what, I really enjoyed scoring the 11th Doctor era and I just want to bring it back. And you know what, good for you, Diva, good for you. Or, alternatively, Matt Smith confirmed for the next Doctor. Think about it. Actually, don't think about it. Love Matt Smith, but we need new things, please. Let's not rely on nostalgia, please. But yeah, heading to the end of the episode, I actually quite enjoy the conclusion. Like Belinda going into the film store and destroying all those film prints like the BBC did to Doctor Who in the 1970s. You know, and a moment that also really moved me as well, when you had Belinda trying to get the matches and Mr. Pye sees his wife in that brief moment and she says like, find me. And yeah, that got me. I don't know, I think I was feeling really emotional when I watched this episode the first time because I cried like twice. The second time I rewatched it, I was like, baby, get a grip. Like it's good, but it's not that good. Let's just chill out. Let's just relax. But once again with these gods, we're just making it up as we go along. You know, you've got light being exposed to too much light makes him really big and then makes him nothing and everything at the same time. You know, you can just say whatever because there's no rules and the rules change whenever you feel like it. There doesn't feel like there's a sense of structure to it. Whereas, you know, something like the Weeping Angels, when you look at them, they don't move. When you blink, they move. That's their rules. It's simple, which is why I think like rules are important. So you're like, I understand how this monster works and therefore it works. But once again, I'm one of those people that if I feel like the story emotionally works and 99% of it is really, really great, then I'm happy to forgive a little bit of a conclusion that feels a bit convenient. And when all of the cinema goers return, there's a constant reference to like all 15 are back, 15. Like it's weird that we've got a specific number and the 15th Doctor. I wonder if there's a weird significance to that that's going to pay off later. I don't know. I don't know anything about spoilers. I'm trying to avoid all leaks, even though people keep telling me things. Stop telling me things. I don't want to know. I want my brain to be empty. I don't want no thoughts up here. There's too much going on. Leave me alone. And once again, Mrs. Flood turns up again. It's getting confusing because last season we had Susan Triad and she kept appearing as different people throughout time. And then by the end of it, we figure out who she is. How come Mrs. Flood is doing the exact same thing? Because I feel like if I was a casual viewer, I would think Mrs. Flood is Susan Triad because, you know, you've got an older lady who keeps appearing in episodes doing the exact same shtick. It's confusing that they've got a similar storyline. So I'm not overly invested in the Mrs. Flood storyline, but once again, I love Anita Dobson, so I keep forgiving her every time because she's just so brilliant on camera. I'm easy to please. Sorry about it. Ultimately, I really enjoyed this episode. The more I think about this episode, the more I love it. And that's usually the opposite. Usually I'll enjoy something a little bit on the first go and then it'll slowly unravel the more I think about it. But the more I think about this one, the more I enjoy it. I feel like it was tailored to my particular interests and it just scratched that itch of what I was looking for in Doctor Who. This is the type of story that I was really hoping for when Russell came back. You know, I was hoping for like a fresh take on Doctor Who and the return of good pacing. And we just haven't had that. We just haven't had the good pacing. Because I really believe in the 45-minute format. I think it worked brilliantly for the entirety of the first 5 seasons of the new series. You know, those 5 seasons are so well paced that they don't feel rushed. They feel like they fit their 45-minute format and it's brilliant. So why can't they recreate that? And this proves that they can. So what's going on, Russ? What's going on, baby? Are you okay? Do you need some help? Let's just cut some elements. I think the big takeaway from this is that side characters that are simple and effective, that don't take up too much time, but their characters seem to have some depth, but they're simple, that's the way to do it. I feel like this series is taking the critiques I had for last season and fixing them. And I feel like this, to me, is one of the best episodes that Russell has written for this Russell T Davies 2 era. So, what did you think of Lux? Would you be buying a ticket to go see this movie, or would you be asking for a refund? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't make me laugh. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Josh Nez YouTube channel.